Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go! All right, let's go. It is a special Saturday edition of Ballsy Uncut. Now, I'm doing this because halfway through the show yesterday, my power went out here in White City. Now, as the story goes, I guess there was a planned power outage between just give me a second here. I'm trying to get everything set up here. I'm a one-man show. I know I say that lots, but it is true. So just give me 1 second here. I'm just going to get things fired up the correct way. We'll do this here. I can see myself on my phone screen. So let's do that. Anyway, the power went out, but it went out later than it should have. Like, I thought the planned power outage was between 2 and 3, and I thought it was between, and the power outage actually happened between 3 and 4 twice. And I was running my show earlier because I went to a fundraiser last night. They're raising money for a new facility in North Central Regina to help out that community. And I wanted to go be a part of that. Thanks to my friends, Chris and Stacy, for inviting us to their table. Myself and Crescinda went, and thanks to them for inviting us. They bought a table. Anyway, I watched Murad El-Khatib, former Mayor Michael Fougere, Steve Compton, the Garage Band. Remember the Garage Band that John Hopkins was a part of, former Chamber of Commerce president who passed away from cancer? They kept the band alive. They were going to maybe disband it because of that. Their buddy passes away, but they decided to keep it going, and what a great job. I tell you what, Murad El-Khatib gets up there, takes a lot of balls. This show is about balls. Takes a lot of balls to stand up there and sing in front of your peers trying to raise money. They raised $1.6 million last night towards that event, or that venture, I guess. Sorry, is what I'm trying to say. So I did watch the game, kind of, but I had my buddy Ryan Hall, who's an accomplished coach in Saskatchewan and a guy that is running a bunch of safe tackling camps for Regina Minor football and Football Saskatchewan across the province. Very astute guy, former Regina Ram national champion. So I got him to really watch the game and break it down for you. You can check it out on X, on YouTube, on Facebook, and a little later on today. I didn't have time to post it in the podcast form, but it will be up wherever you get your podcasts later today. But yeah, we broke down the Rough Riders 37-29 victory. So we'll call this Rider Rewind, little recap. Trevor Harris threw for right around 250 yards. Raquel Armstead, I have to say, I was a little leery about bringing him onto the roster because Frankie Hickson's a guy that, when he's got his time on the roster, has averaged almost like 5 yards, or right around 5 yards a carry. And I thought, okay, you bring this guy in, you bump Frankie to the one game. Obviously, that wouldn't sit well with Frankie, but it's professional football. You have to deal with it. And Frankie's kind of been on and off the roster his whole time here. I don't know what that speaks to. Anytime he's there, he has some pop. I know he had a key drop in that Labor Day rematch, the Banjo Bowl in Winnipeg, and that hurt the Rough Riders, hurt the football team. But it didn't cost them the game, and it wouldn't be Frankie Hickson's fault. So anyway, Raquel Armstead comes in, and here's a guy that was 4th in the CFL in rushing, but was upset with his lack of carries and lack of touches with the football. Now, there's some chatter. There could be some sort of maybe character stuff coming out of there. He did get kicked out of a game for 2 misconducts by halftime of a game once with the Red Blacks. And like I said, going into the game, if you can't get along with the nicest guy in the CFL, Bob Dice, and his coaching staff, then I don't know who you can get along with. But he comes in here, he runs like a man possessed. He averaged 8.82 yards a carry, so he gets some street cred from his team with only like 2 or 3 days practice. But a bigger note, let's give a shout out to the offensive line. Now, let's be honest. I've been critical of O'Day and to some extent Reynolds for giving O'Day a new contract. I think his grade as a general manager, it would be C at best, maybe worse. Like, this team has deteriorated since Chris Jones left personnel-wise. There's no doubt about that. And he's let guys go, and he's brought guys back and overpaid to bring them back, and brought guys in that are past their past their best before date, in my opinion. But let's be honest, they've had a lot of injuries on the offensive line the last 3 years. And Jeremy O'Day is one of the greatest offensive linemen that's played for this team since I've been watching Riders football. Okay? He is. Grey Cup champion. Been with the organization a long time. Not that should weigh into keeping a job as a general manager. But where I'm going with this is this year, and maybe with the help of Edwin Harrison, the O-line coach, who's done a great job there, should get a game ball, like I said. They're on their 18th, using their 18th, 19th offensive lineman, like what, their 6th right tackle. And the combination of Trevon Tate, Nick Jones, Logan Ferland, stud offensive lineman, Noah Zur, and Trevor Reed did a great job yesterday. They did a great job. So as much as it was Raquel Anderson and Rock picking up those yards, it was equally important to see that offensive line perform. Noah Zur being plugged in there because of injury has done a great job coming in, playing for his hometown team, the team he grew up wanting to play for. And the team should have taken him with the draft pick. When it was his turn, I think they had, if I remember correctly, they had a chance to take an offensive lineman. It should have been Noah Zur. It wasn't Noah Zur. He went to BC, then Hamilton, and now he's back in Saskatchewan. So all's well that ends well, I guess, and he's playing well. So kudos to the offensive line. I do have some concerns about the defense. I mean, Amari Henderson had a pretty good game in replace of Roland Milligan, who was away for the birth of his 4th child. But let's be honest. These guys couldn't get a stop till the end of the game. What is going on with this championship defense? They better now. I know they've had some injuries. Malik Carney hurt. Milligan didn't play. But you're playing Calgary and you can't stop them. The Calgary, listen, you won the game. I'm not going to poo-poo that. I didn't think the Riders would win. I thought the season was over last night. So they won the game. They're 6-7-1 and very much alive in the playoffs. And honestly, after watching Calgary, I'll chalk up another win at home against the Stamps. So that gets them to 7, and they got to find one more to get to the playoffs. So I do think the Riders will get to the playoffs. After that, like I said, you know what I said? I said the Riders have to get to a West. In my opinion, the Riders have to get to a West final and fare well in that West final, like a competitive game for this to be deemed a successful season with the whole sustained success that Craig Reynolds always talks about. To just get to the playoffs at a sub 500 record and go out in the first round is mediocre. And is that what the fans deserve? Do fans deserve mediocrity? No, they don't. Not guys like Rob and Corey who drove to the game with, I saw pictures of them from Weyburn and surrounding area. They got jerseys hanging in the back. Like they're going to a fashion show. So no, fans deserve more than just get to the playoffs. So people say, well, it's a rebuilding year. It's not. Come on. It's the CFL. It's a 9-team league. It's not a 32-team league. It should be a reload year, not a rebuild year. Okay. And aren't you tired of scoreboard watching all the time? Aren't you tired of scraping and clawing? Don't you want to be one of those powerhouse teams that they were? They were a powerhouse team on and off the field from 2006 to 2014. They were a team that everybody's like, ooh, this is a coming team. This is a great team on and off the field. They got to get back to that. First step last night. I think they got the right coaching staff, in my opinion. I've always been a supporter of Mace. And Mark Mueller did a great job yesterday too, because Mark stuck with the run. Mark didn't deviate from the run. He had Hickson get up some pretty big yards in a first half and then went away from him in the Montreal game there, back in Montreal when they lost the game. But he stuck with Raquel Armstead, that offensive line. If it ain't, as Charles Oakley, the former NBA player, used to say, if it ain't broke, don't break it. Did a great job there, and the Rough Riders turned out a very important victory. Could have been different had Demario Houston caught that errant pass Trevor Harris tried to throw it to Keyshawn Johnson, who inexplicably stopped running his slant route, and it hit Demario Houston on the shoulder. And thank God Demario can't catch. Otherwise, that game turns. Also, with about 5 minutes to go, Calgary got a roughing or contacting the punter penalty. They were about to get the ball back, and things could have changed there too. But bad teams find ways to lose. I have never watched Cameron Judge miss so many tackles in my life. That was a horrible display of defense for the Calgary Stampeders last night. A horrible display. Like Raquel Armstead, take nothing away from him. Guy needs some conditioning, hasn't played in 3 weeks, but he wasn't getting touched for 6 or 7 yards down the field. It was terrible. They couldn't set the edge. Judge is missing tackles left and right. Mike always missing tackles he normally makes. That new kid LeBras out of McGill, he had a tackle on every play one series. I think he finished with 10 tackles, the rookie. Good for him, but come on, who's standing up on that defense? That Calgary Stampeders team is not a very good team. So how do you feel about your team? Are you pumped that they won? And are you feeling like they're going to get on a roll? Or you're like, I want to see more. That was just the Calgary Stampeders. Right? And on defense too, like the defense has taken a step back a little bit here. Micah Johnson jumped offside once, but otherwise they got 3 other penalties, I think, lined up offside. How in the bloody hell do you line up offside that many times? Okay, I'll give you 1, but how 2 more times? Have a guy like Micah Johnson set the line and say, nobody crosses this line. I know teams do that. Like, what the hell? That's attention to detail, and you're not winning playoff games if you don't do that. You gotta be buttoned up. But hey, the Rough Riders win. They're 6-7-1 and very much alive. I'm 0-2 in my picks. See, you can thank me, Rider Nation. You can thank me because I picked the Riders for 4 straight weeks and they lost 4 weeks in a row. Now they end their 7-game winless skid with a win when I picked Calgary to win. I picked Calgary and I picked Toronto. What the hell is going on with the Argos? That's the thing Rider Nation should be happy about. The Riders aren't a spectacular football team, but nobody in this league is spectacular. Montreal is probably the closest to being spectacular, but even they're not a dominant team. They can be had. Riders could have had them twice, okay? So that's why you should have some pause for optimism for the Rough Riders. Even though they beat lowly Calgary, they won the game they had to. You can only play the team that's in front of you on the field, and they did. They handled their business, so kudos to them. It's a victory. But what is going on with Toronto? Like, wow. And Bo Levi Mitchell. Shame on you, Scott Milanovich. Bo Levi Mitchell gets benched because that's it. We turned the football over too much. Scott, you have a terrible defense. Your defense was terrible. They've gotten better since Chris Jones took it over, but your defense was terrible. It wasn't Bo Levi Mitchell's fault. Yeah, he had some interceptions, but if your defense could play better, if your secondary wasn't such a mess earlier this year, this team would be a lot better than 5-9. They would be probably 9-5. Bo Levi Mitchell has 24 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He threw for 362 and a tug yesterday. He has 4,400 yards passing. You want to talk MOP? That guy would be the MOP if his record was better. Honestly. And you were going to bench him. I don't get some of these guys. Like, you know what it is? Sometimes, I'll just say it. Sometimes it's, you know what? I know what's best for the team. I'm going to tell you what's best for the team. We need to put Taylor Powell in. What does Taylor Powell show? I have nothing against Taylor Powell. We need good young quarterbacks. And I hope he develops into one. And maybe he will. And unfortunately got hurt. But what did Taylor Powell show you more than Bo Levi Mitchell shows you? Because he didn't turn the football over? Yeah, you don't want to turn the football over. I get it. But the Riders were forcing turnovers till last night and losing all their games. So now, so you bench the guy that's really one of your positives? Was it Bo Levi Mitchell's fault that Tim White couldn't catch a cold early on in the year? That the O-line wasn't holding up? Bo looks the best he's looked in a while, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on, but it's wide open. Even Hamilton's in the playoff mix now. Looking forward to these games today. I got Montreal beating Ottawa. I'd love to see Ottawa win, but Ottawa doesn't have Pickett. Their defense has kind of been stumbling a bit lately, and I think Montreal is just the class of the East, and they should win that game. And then I've got Edmonton knocking off Winnipeg. It's kind of more what I want to happen, but Edmonton's been playing lights out football. And, I said this on the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show and earlier in the week on the Ballsy Uncut podcast. Chris Jones is a great defensive coordinator, very smart, and he knows how to find talent. He works hard to find talent. His biggest problems are he's not a spectacular head coach, in my opinion. I just don't think he has the knack for it. And number two, He's always, because of that in mind and trying to get the perfect roster, if a guy makes a mistake, he's out right away and somebody else is in. So they have more stability now. Roy Simon, who I think has a bright future in this league as a personnel guy, hasn't had to add too much. AC Leonard here or Haggerty there coming back from Regina after an injury to Hutter, although I think Chris Jones did that before he left. But Roy Simon, Jarius Jackson, they have just solidified and just calmed the waters a bit. And it's a little more, there's more stability. And stability can lead to complacency too sometimes, but stability is also good to let guys know, hey, I can play fast, I can play hard, I can make a mistake and I won't get pulled. And then that way you don't turn from one mistake to 4 mistakes. So I don't know, I got Edmonton by a touchdown. I think Edmonton wins by 5 to 7 points. But what the hell do I know? I came in 35-22-2 on the season, and now I'm 35-24-2 because I lost the first 2 games. You're welcome, Rider Nation. I picked Calgary. Okay, we are going to this. So the reason I'm doing this today is because I had 2 interviews that didn't air. Every couple of weeks, we hook up with Tish Duffy. She is a trainer of over 30 years out of BC. I kind of followed her, train with Tish on some of her social media sites, and I used her on my radio days on a weekly basis. And I said, hey, every second week, would you like to come on and give some training tips for anybody? But it's more skewed towards people my age, maybe a little younger, like in their 30s, 40s, 50s. But she's got tips for everybody. She's been doing it for 30 years, training men, training women. And as you'll see, she's not too bad on the eyes, which is good. I was told too, ballsy, when you're doing this, you got to stand out from the crowd. You got to say stuff nobody else will say. I'm like, no problem with that. And you got to have a little bit of eye candy, maybe either for the ladies or for the men. So we'll start with for the men. Well, hey, in this world could be for the ladies too. Who am I to judge? Anyway, Train with Tish is where you find her at all social media platforms. We'll hear from her, and we're also going to hear from Andy McNamara. He is our NFL fantasy football expert. This guy knows his stuff. He'll get you ready for week 3 in the NFL. These were 2 interviews that were supposed to air yesterday, but because of the power outage here in White City, I had to, I thought, you know what, I can't let these 2 go unaired. So here we go. And thanks to our great sponsors too. AGT Foods Canada and the aforementioned Murad El Khatib, his brother Omar and the gang, always supporting the community, always supporting what I do. Also, Ward Tirecraft, Michael Barth and the gang, 101 Dudney Avenue East. If you need tires, you need brakes, you go see Michael Barth and the gang at 101 Dudney Avenue East, and I get you 10% off the top. You just go and say, Ballsy sent me 10% off the top, okay? And also to Paul Waldo at Royal LePage. Get in the real estate game with the 3-time Grey Cup champ. Give him a call, 306-502-5355. His Huskies took one on the chin yesterday, losing 38-17 to the UBC Thunderbirds, who improved to 2-2. Huskies dropped to 1-3. The Rams dropped to 2-2, now tied, actually behind UBC in the standings because the Alberta Golden Bears come up with a victory, winning their game 30-6 over the Rams at Foot Field. And today it's Manitoba against the Calgary Dinos, which should be a good one too, in Can West action. All right, we're going to get to our sponsor break and then to Tish Duffy and Andy McNamara. Well, we check in with my friend Tish. This is Train with Tish. We do it every couple of weeks. Hey, I just got back from Amsterdam. Have you ever been to Amsterdam?
I have not, but I definitely have that on my list of places I'd love to travel to.
You,
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, you should check it out and you would love it. And I'm not talking the red light district. I'm not going there. What I'm talking about is it's a city of about 900,000 and on average each person has 3 bikes. So it's a very walking biking city. So I know you like to do that stuff and it's amazing. I was there. I didn't see one accident while I was there and I'm prone to accidents and I was on a bike and didn't hit anybody. It's a really outdoorsy city, so I recommend it for you.
Awesome.
Um, so let's start here. As I talk to you today, I'm just trying to book a massage because I think I tweaked something in my back and it's or like my neck, and it's my fault because if I have 45 minutes to work out, I'm going to spend most of it working out. I'm not going to stretch. Stretching's for those people. I don't need to stretch. The older I get, I find out that's stupid, and actually, it's dumb for everybody. Everybody should stretch. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have even asked me or spoke about this with me 2 years ago, I probably would have had the exact same mindset as you do. But I know that most of your listeners are men. But for me, as soon as I reached perimenopause, hormones started changing, and for men, these sorts of things change too.
Hmm.
It affects the way you move your body, and if you're not mobile, the strength training sessions that you're doing really won't actually be benefiting you as well because you're not training your body through the proper ranges of motion that are required. So mobility is something that I have completely changed in my programming. If my clients aren't spending 10 minutes daily, I tell them that their strength benefits or their strength workouts are not going to be benefiting them the way they need to. It is just like a non-starter for me. If you're not willing to put that effort in now at this age, 45 on, then you're probably not going to be, I actually can tell you, you're not going to be getting the same benefits from the efforts you're spending in the gym. So you've got to start doing it.
Okay, so as we're talking here, then is there? I want to talk about people starting up working out, but starting up stretching. If you want to get like me, I'm listening to you. I've worked out for my whole life, and I know how to stretch. But are there a basic set of stretches somebody should do every time?
That's a really good question. I mean, typically what you're feeling in your body is not actually the area that's the most problematic. So if you're feeling your back, it probably is more to do with even calf tightness, hip tightness. So focusing on, believe it or not, specific strengthening and stretching of the calf muscles, which is something that I do almost daily now and has taken away, believe it or not, my knee pain.
Hmm.
And then hip stretches, right? So, I forget what it's called, but you've got to make sure that you're limber and moving those hips daily. So, the figure eights where you're standing and moving your hips in and out, more dynamic types of movements, not so much. I mean, it's great to hold stretches and count for about 10 to 20 seconds, or when you feel the relief of the stretch, then typically that's when you hold off. But I actually prefer my clients to move dynamically. So move the body through certain ranges of motion, opening up the hips, opening up the hip flexors. I actually have my level 1 Aldoa certification, and these are specific postures that help create space within the vertebrae. And if you create space in the vertebrae, so these are, 1 minute hold postures, it will speak to other parts of the body. It's absolutely fascinating. And again, because of the new realm of scope that I'm practicing in terms of helping people with mobility issues, Aldoa postures, dynamic movements, proper warm-ups, proper cool downs. Downward dog is a really good one, right?
Hmm.
Airplane is a really good one. You're going to feel and hear your body creaking and crackling. This is a good thing. Don't be afraid of the body speaking to you, I always say. Especially women, they're like, I can hear my knee, I can hear my shoulder. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes that's your body opening up and saying, thank you.
Yeah, it's never too late to start working out. So what's a couple of suggestions for somebody, whether they're 30, 40, 50, or whatever, to start working out?
I agree. I mean, I trained a 69-year-old starting. I mean, she had done some previous strength training in her 40s, but she needed a hip replacement at 69. And at 69, they wouldn't do the surgery because she wasn't strong enough. Well, after 6 months of training the 69-year-old, she no longer actually ended up needing that hip replacement. And I actually continued to train this woman until she was 80. She passed away of cancer, but she didn't even have an Advil or a Tylenol in her cabinet. She didn't need any painkillers because of what she started doing at 69. So I tell that story to everyone because I think it really does give hope for people who haven't started and really feel like maybe it's too big of a climb to get there. It is absolutely never too late. So if you've never done any strength training, it's very important to make sure you hire a professional with some education and with some experience to teach you the proper compound movements, squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, some type of push-up, an overhead press. So make sure that your form is intact before you start pushing on the weight, especially as you get older. Form is number one. And then you can start, adding a little bit more load and more intensity. But the biggest thing is make sure you're learning the proper moves slowly from someone who knows what they're talking about. Don't just look at the person that's the fittest person in the gym. That just means their nutrition is on point. It doesn't necessarily mean that they know exactly what they're doing in the weight room. So hire a professional. Make sure you're getting started in the right direction with the right focus and a right program that's going to progress you slowly and safely.
Okay, we'll get into nutrition the next time because there's that old saying, which is true. You can't outwork or outwalk or outrun a bad diet. Okay, so no. It's like if you got a Ferrari and you put in crappy gas, it's not going to go. So, you're in really good shape. Okay, good looking lady, but it wasn't always. It probably always wasn't like that. Like, and I don't mean that. Okay, as you can tell, I'm not great with the other sex. Okay, I don't even know why my girlfriend's with me. To be honest with you, I outkicked my coverage there. But what I'm getting at is like people look at you and they say, well, yeah, but I mean, look at she were like, you know what I'm saying? They might compare themselves to you. You didn't always look like that, is what I'm saying, in terms of shape and working out and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I always say to my clients, even the young ones, typically in your 20s, 30s, and sometimes, well, let's hope by 40s your habits are improving. But I certainly, enjoyed my life in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Mostly my 20s and my 30s, I started picking up the slack a little just because of what I do for a living. But I always say to my clients when I train the young women and some of the young men, even if you're not happy with the way you look, as long as you're getting into the gym and being consistent 3-4 times a week, 40-45 minutes, you don't have to spend 3 hours a time each session, but as long as you're putting the time in your 20s, and maybe, you're still drinking too much and you're still staying out too late and you're maybe eating after the bar, all the things you're supposed to be doing in your 20s and 30s, which I did as well and certainly carried more body fat on me. But I always say, just don't give up on the strength training because at age 20 and 30, that's when it's the easiest to put on the muscle. And then slowly, organically, just through life, your habits improve. You grow up, you don't go to hopefully you're not going to the bar anymore. And hopefully you're going to bed at a reasonable time, because you don't feel very, very good, but also you're just older. These things happen naturally through time. So once you become a little older and your lifestyle habits slowly improve through just growing up and being an adult, you start actually seeing all the hard work that you've put in your 20s and 30s. So is it too late to start in your 40s and 50s and 60s? No. But if you do start in your 20s and you're still not happy with exactly how you look, then you just slowly start tweaking habits. But yeah, my body definitely has improved as I get older. I didn't have children, so people like to always say, well, it's easy for her because she didn't have children. And I do agree with that. But I also train hundreds of women who had children who are rocking it out, literally killing it at age 40 and 50. And we're talking had 3 or 4 children, and just make the decisions to be there for their children, but also feel and look as good as they can in the next phase of your life. Because if you don't start taking care of yourself at this time, the vitality of your life in your 60s and 70s is certainly going to suffer.
Okay, lastly for this session here, Tish. So we are in a very compact world. Like I might have an hour, I might have 90 minutes, I might only have 45 minutes. What's generally a good time spent in the gym? Like I think, I personally think 90 minutes to 2 hours is overkill. I really
Yeah.
do.
Oh yeah.
I think the sweet spot's probably 45 minutes to an hour of high intensity. Like you're going, you're going, you're going. That's how I feel. Maybe it's not the same for everybody, but generally, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with you. If you're spending more than an hour in the gym, and I'm talking including a proper warm up and cool down, the intensity just isn't there. Put your phone down, put your earphones on, get into a zone, and give yourself some focus. If you're spending over an hour in the gym, your rest intervals are too long. Rest intervals in between sets is a real thing. We don't want the muscles to have these long periods in between sets to recover. We want to stimulate and focus on that specific muscle that we're trying to reach a threshold with. And so small rest intervals are important, especially if you're really wanting to put muscle on. Strength, when we're talking more about strength, maybe the rest intervals are a little bit longer, but there's no way anyone should be spending more than an hour in the gym. And I'm saying a 10-minute warm up, a 10-minute cool down, maybe some mobility before you actually start. And then boom, 3 sets. I like to program, a push-pull superset. So you're doing a push chest press with a pull down. Do those right away and then give yourself that 30 seconds to 40-second rest. Do that 3 times. Do another superset and then another superset. So 3 supersets. You absolutely can get that done in 30 minutes. So I think most of the time people are just not putting the intensity in. If you're putting the intensity in that you're required to put in to get results, you don't want to spend more than an hour in the gym. You just don't.
No, that's for sure. And where can they find your stuff?
Okay, so I have a website, trainwithtish.com. That is probably the easiest way to contact me, but I'm on all the social media feeds, Train with Tish, Instagram. That's probably the one that I'm the most active on. But my website probably is the best landing place for people to check my stuff out.
We'll check you out in 2 weeks. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michael. Have an awesome day.
All right, time now to talk about week 3 in the NFL. We missed last week because I was away, but we're back now, and we just saw Aaron Rodgers dismantle the New England Patriots. But all the talk coming out was, what did him and Saleh have to say to each other on the sidelines when Saleh came in for like the coach's bro hug and he pushed him away? Apparently, they both were on the same page because they've always been talking about the defense getting a 2-score lead and holding the 2-score lead. So that's kind of, the alpha dogs going at it, but it wasn't a good look. Everybody wants to pick on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, no, I know it was strange for sure. But look, you win. Those things don't seem so bad. And here's what people I think are not appreciating enough. Look, the Patriots are terrible outside of eliminating everybody in survivor pools by beating the Bengals. Thanks for nothing, Pat, you bums.
Yeah.
But outside of that, their offensive line is terrible. Jacoby Brissett's a sitting duck, and they have no receivers. So, what does that mean? This whole team's terrible. Aaron Rodgers, he beat a bad team. Look closer. If you watch that game, Ballsy, boy, man, Aaron Rodgers, the way he moved, he was 8 for 8 rolling out of the pocket. This guy turned back the clock. Whatever cave he sits in the dark in, go sit there again, because this guy is ready to roll. Aaron Rodgers is back. That performance, not the numbers, not the win, the way he looked tells me this guy's back, and that's a problem for the AFC East.
Well, and they've got good weapons. They got Hall and Allen coming out of the backfield. You got Wilson, you got Lazard, and once Mike Williams gets up to speed, he's slowly coming. Look out for that offense. And the line looks pretty decent, too. I know their right guard got hurt. We're waiting to see what that's all about, but that's a pretty good offensive team. That's a good team. That's a good team.
It's a good team, man. It's the defense is there with Saleh, like you said. With the Dolphins seemingly out of commission with no Tua, that's over for them. That's done. The Bills, I thought, getting ready to moonwalk their way to an AFC title, maybe not so fast with this Jets team.
Yeah, for sure. It's a long season, long and winding season. By the way, should Tua call it a career?
Oh man, like you'd think just by looking, like every time he gets hit, you get the awful. I forget what it's called, but the hand thing is just so awful looking. It's terrible. It depends. Like there's also science. Denzel Ward gets a lot of concussions for the Browns, and he says he's been told that as long as you give X number of weeks, the brain they don't accumulate. I don't know if that's true or not. I have no idea. But man, if you're Tua, that's pretty scary. You sign that extension, and it might come down to money. Like my understanding is, if he just says I'm done, then he gets no money. But if the doctors are like, dude, you got it, it's over. Like what they did with Chris Bosh for a different reason. Then he gets all his cash. So for 124 mil, maybe he thinks it's worth hanging around a little bit.
Well, and the doctors, if they're working for the Dolphins, will probably say, "Oh no, you're good to play," because they don't want to. The Dolphins don't want to be out the cash,
right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's get to these games here. There's 3 we've kind of picked out on a busy weekend. Let's start with your Browns, since you're wearing the hat. It was they were 2 for 14 on third downs. They lost 2 offensive linemen. No disrespect, but they should be thankful the Jaguars suck, because they're and even Trevor Lawrence said we suck. Speaking of sucking, it's the Giants, but I think this is the second ugliest game of the week, and I'll tell you what I think the uglier game will be. But I got the Giants covering 6.5 here. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they're going to cover 6.5.
I wouldn't be surprised at all by that, because the offense hasn't earned the right to win by more than a touchdown, I don't feel. So I'm with you there. And the Browns, the offensive line looks this week getting a bit healthier. Looks like you're getting Jack Conklin back in some capacity. Jed Wilson's practicing. Deshaun Watson, what I want to see is obviously get a win, but I want to see Deshaun Watson take the next step. Week 1 was a debacle. Week 2, competent-ish. Week 3, let's take another step. Let's get that confidence going against a bad team. And I'll tell you, my best bet this week, Ballsy, okay? We got our NFL party parlay here on the show, all right? I built a little ticket that we'll go through as we go. My first leg of our parlay is Amari Cooper alternate receptions same game parlay, 8 or more catches, pays plus 680. And the reason I say that is because Amari Cooper's first 2 games have been dismal. He spoke at the locker and he's like, you know what? It's unacceptable. I hold myself to a higher standard. I was a bit distracted by his contract that didn't happen. And the fact as well, like he had a holdout for a little bit. Mm-hmm. He is ready. He is one of the most professional players. And the thing is, him and Deshaun Watson's been giving him the targets. He just hasn't been catching them. He has 14 targets. 17 targets over 2 games. So I think they get the confidence back, and he gets 8, and that's a hell of a payout at plus 680.
Okay, so one of the surprise teams early on this year, the New Orleans Saints, they went in and did a hammer job on the Cowboys. I wouldn't say the Cowboys are a juggernaut, but I wouldn't expect them to get hammered on home turf. And I don't know, I watched the Eagles play the first 2 weeks, and to me, they haven't fully recovered from that debacle last year when they collapsed. The head coach blew that game for them. Run the ball, kick the field goal, Minnesota, I'm thinking Cousins. But Atlanta doesn't have time to move down like they did to win the game. Yeah, so I've got the Saints there to cover, like they're minus 2.5 on home turf against the Eagles. I'm going the Saints to win that game. But I am picking Saquon Barkley to get an anytime touchdown because he, in essence, blew that game, dropping the pass in the flat. So I think he'll come back with a vengeance, but it won't be enough. That's how I see that game.
I'm totally with you on the Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown. I have that in our party parlay as well. I got that, and I'm totally with you. He was like, man, you throw that ball to him 100 times, Ballsy, he catches it 99. He didn't that time. He didn't that time. The bigger sin for Sirianni to me was not taking the points earlier in the game at that field goal. Not that way. Saquon Barkley, he should do it. He didn't. And a note as well, Sirianni did not talk to his own team after the loss. He let the leadership council do it. I think this is a last stand, last chance, or you lose the locker room if you're Sirianni this week. And that's why I'm taking the Eagles on the money line, plus 197. I'll hand it to the Saints. And Clint Kubiak, boy, that guy's going to be a head coach one day. You do that with Derek Carr and company. Has been good. But this is a desperation mode for the Eagles. They have to make a statement right now. They can still, if they turn it around with all the injuries to the 49ers, can still be the best team in the NFC. But you got to do it right now. So I'm going to say Eagles plus 197 for the win.
Derek Carr's changing everything. I think yesterday was the first time in 18 days or 28 days they haven't had a murder in New Orleans. It's Derek Carr and the Saints. Yeah, it was some weird
They're all
stat.
happy.
Derek Carr is saving New Orleans.
Saving lives.
Literally on and off the field. I'm not joking about murder, but that's just unbelievable.
That's
okay. The Raiders and Carolina. I will say this. Carolina is barely an NFL team.
Correct.
So whoever plays Carolina, pick the other team. Okay, don't pick Carolina. And I know the Raiders aren't good running the football right now. They're having a little bit of issues there. But Carolina is also not very good stopping the run. So I'm going to go with Zamir White over 58.5 yards rushing in that game.
Ooh, I like that. And I think that could be a nice play. Him and Madison have been a bit of a duo back and forth. But Zamir White popped a little bit last week. Here's my thinking. You bench, and that the way they handled Bryce Young, and even taking Bryce Young, how on your show, how often was I screaming, take C.J. Stroud, you fools?
Yes.
And I was right. They didn't. And they have Bryce Young, and now the owner, again, is dabbling his fingers in and doesn't like Bryce Young anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
You bench him. Who's in there? Andy Dalton. Should we consider Andy Dalton a good quarterback, Ballsy? No. But he is a competent veteran who's won big games, and I think he settles things down here. The Raiders as well, upsetting the Ravens. Huge win. Thank you, by the way, Raiders. I love that. Took down the Ratbirds, and now I think it's a case where this is still, the Raiders aren't a good team. They're going to be flying high. They're going to overlook the Panthers, and Andy Dalton can calm it down. This can be the one. Guys like this get one rally game, right? Come on, guys, us against the world. Andy Dalton's in. And I think that guy's done it enough to pull off the upset at plus 225. Ballsy, I've lived through 1-31, a Browns team that had one win one year and 0 for 60 the next year. It is tough to lose that many games and not win in the NFL. Panthers have that vibe, but if you're going to win one, I think this could be the one, and I'm building that onto our ticket. It's the riskiest play. Carolina money line.
Wow.
Plus 225 with Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, rallies the troops one time. This might be their only win, but I think it could happen.
Okay, so I'm going to throw one in here extra that I just went through. You got to pick your team, so I get to pick my team.
Okay.
I have watched exciting, heartbreaking football for years with the Chargers. It is boring as shit now watching them play, but they're 2-0. This will be a 1975 special. Chargers at Steelers. This will be, I got the Chargers winning under 36. The over-under is 36. I think the Chargers win like 16-10, 17-14, like a really low-scoring game. How do you see that one going?
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Pittsburgh can't score touchdowns. Chargers aren't really scoring touchdowns. And both teams are grinding it out. And both teams are getting it done, to their credit. Both teams are just finding a way. That's what you want to do early on. But there's injuries, and Herbert's a bit banged up again, and Justin Fields is managing the game, but he's nothing special, and that offense isn't anything special. I'm totally with you. I would smash that under at 36. I saw 35.5 around there. I would take it. And I'm going for the Chargers, too. I think if you can get that, it'll be a great coach match. Harbaugh versus Tom, the other Harbaugh versus Tom. I think that'll be, it'll be, if you're looking for entertainment in the traditional shootout way, no. If you're looking to just see sort of battle of wits and a bit of a chess match, I think it could be a very interesting game to follow.
Another interesting game for me is Baltimore against Dallas. The Cowboys at home after getting hammered. And Baltimore is, I know we're both smiling like butcher's dogs. Oh, and I like John Harbaugh. I'm not a big Lamar Jackson guy. But Baltimore is 0-2. Dude, take your brown.
Say it again.
Take your orange and brown goggles off for a second.
Okay.
Ravens 0-3, or do they win this game in Dallas?
Lamar Jackson's never lost 3 games in a row in the NFL. Dallas, after putting the boots to my Browns, got inexplicably smoked by the Saints. I still don't understand what happened. I watched the game. I watched replays. But I still don't know how that happened. But it did. So you have 2 teams who are, I don't know if desperate's the right word. Dallas certainly embarrassed. And you're going to go at home. Jerry Jones ain't going to be happy. I think the Cowboys, the Ravens offense, as I've been saying for years, sputters. It sputters when you contain Lamar Jackson and make him throw the ball. Finally, teams are making him do that. He'll get his odd run here. He'll get his 20-yarder. But you're making him throw, and we're seeing the consequences now. So I think Dallas takes it at home, puts the Ravens to 0-3, and I'll take that without my brown and orange goggles on. And when I put those goggles back on, Ballsy, I'll be smiling like a jackass, and I love it.
You had an upset. I'm gonna have an upset special here. I wouldn't bet the farm on it, but Detroit's offense has been sluggish.
Okay.
Arizona's has not been. It's at home in Arizona. I think that's an upset special there. I think Arizona could come up with a win and surprise them in the desert.
I'm looking. Detroit only 3-point road favorites. That's not crazy. The connection that they had with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
Now, Detroit spent a lot of their offseason upgrading their secondary. Draft, free agency. They did. Now, has it gelled fully yet? No. They'll be focusing on Marvin Harrison big time. You still got Trey McBride, who's real good. They got some weapons there. That's interesting. You know what? That's not crazy at all. I might sprinkle a little bit on. I wouldn't put the Andy McNamara
house on it, but I would. I'd throw $5, $10 on that.
Home, you're traveling.
Home. Yeah. Murray's on a bit of a roll. Kyler's on a bit of a roll.
I don't think that's crazy.
No.
I don't think that's crazy. I hope it's over the 51.5 total, though. That'd be fun. That'd be a fun game.
So I'm going to ask you a question here before I let you wrap up with any closing thoughts. Do you regret the Browns getting rid of Baker Mayfield?
Yes. I regretted it the second it happened. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. 100,000% I do. And people saying, oh, he's matured now and all that. Maybe. And let me ask this to the broad media across North America. Why does everyone love Baker now? Didn't love him when he was with my Browns. No, you didn't like Baker then. Now he's not with Cleveland. Now he's wearing a pirate ship for a hat. Great. And now he's all popular. Good for you. Look, this guy, here's the difference. Now, maybe he did need that maturing. He's got a kid now, etc. Blah, blah, blah. What happened was Baker Mayfield is a bit of a loudmouth, right? He gets the vibe. He likes to go. The Browns front office, very kumbaya, very calm, very analytical. They didn't like the pizzazz. They hosed him. They absolutely hosed him that year. That game 2, he got his shoulder busted up in the second week. If you would have given him surgery right there, 6 weeks, he's back in week 8. We're cooking. They didn't, and they let him hang himself by letting him keep playing, and it was a total hose job. I was disgusted by it, and you let that guy get away. And instead, we got our pervert Deshaun Watson here, who I have to cheer for every week. And instead, all you had to do was not trade Baker Mayfield and just build around. Ballsy, imagine if you had those 3 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had those 3 picks, and you could build around Baker.
And he got you a playoff win over Pittsburgh.
Sure as hell did.
So check this out to add a little salt into your wounds. I don't know if you saw this or not, but you're a numbers guy, okay? So in the first 95 games of his career, Baker Mayfield has just a shade under 22,000 yards passing. He has 145 touchdowns, so keep that in mind. He has 78 interceptions. His passer rating is a shade under 90, and he has a 46-49 record with mostly a crappy teams. Carolina, the Browns, whatever.
Sure.
Okay? So that's his numbers. Drew Brees, in his first 95 games, has just over 22,000, like 300 yards more. Mm-hmm. He has less touchdown passes at 142 to Baker's 145. He has 85 interceptions, or had, which is 7 more than Baker threw over the same time period. His passer rating is 1.5 lower than Baker Mayfield's, and his record is 49-46, playing with 2 more stable franchises in the Chargers, who are under Marty Schottenheimer, and then Sean Payton with the Saints. So there you go. That's why you keep Baker Mayfield. He's the most underrated quarterback in the NFL right now.
I'm with you, man. Hey, you don't have to preach to me, brother. I'm in the choir right now. I got my Baker Mayfield autograph rookie card, on-card auto. I got his a piece of the football where he broke the rookie touchdown record and all that. No, I'm totally with you. I saw that stat and I was like, why is this in my feed? I don't need this. I don't need this. But you know what? That's it. If he stayed and maybe it wouldn't have worked, I don't know. All I know is this guy was the heart and soul. He saved you. He opened up the fridges after that winless streak. I'll never forget that. Ballsy, I haven't cried at a funeral, and I shed a tear when the Browns won the damn game on Thursday night, and Baker Mayfield opened the freaking fridges. I had a real tear. I've seen open casket funerals I haven't cried at, and I cried for that. Baker Mayfield's my guy. Hey, and they got rid of him. They screwed him. They got rid of him. And we got the old Hansy Watson here cooking, and I gotta hope he does well because I love the city and I love the franchise.
What's next? We're gonna have a lawsuit. He's gonna have more lawsuits and touchdown passes the way it's going. Hey, so let's go here.
Going.
Start and sit. Is there a guy that people might be wanting to start that maybe they shouldn't start this week? Do you have one of those? Like, I'll start this guy. Is there a guy like that? Or maybe an under the radar guy that nobody's talking about that you could maybe get?
Well, I'll tell you this. With the Rams, you mentioned that they're falling apart. And I would say, now, if Demarcus Robinson is still on your waiver wire in your fantasy football team, go get him. Mm-hmm. He's probably gone, but I think he's still available in like 30, 40% of leagues. So if he's there, that's your play. Tight end Colby Parkinson, also on the Rams. There's just not enough targets. They got to throw to somebody. And with Kupp going down, they just collapse. I don't think they're as bad as it could be. But the guy, if those two are gone or you have a tight end, to grab and sit for now is Tutu Atwell. Remember last year, Ballsy, we were talking about Puka and Tutu and all that stuff. Well, Tutu Atwell went on a 5-game streak last year where he was fantasy football gold, and when he had the opportunity, so he could get that opportunity again. I would grab him. I want to see how he's used, but I would grab him and I'd place him on the bench right now and sit there. Other starts, you mentioned Baker Mayfield, absolutely, and Geno Smith is the most consistent under the radar fantasy producer. If your guy's hurt, like if you have a Jordan Love and he's banged up, he'll get you 17 to 19 fantasy points every week, Ballsy. Every week, automatic, and it's beautiful. So Geno Smith would be a great start this week as well if you're in some quarterback trouble.
You know, it's funny when you talk about for the average fan or maybe somebody just getting into fantasy, those are kind of no-name guys you talked about with the Rams, but that's the beauty of fantasy. When you kind of go player dumpster diving and you go, well, who's this guy? But they have nobody to throw to.
That's right, and you have to collect. The thing is, you have your fantasy. I've seen so many teams and play. Oh, I did my fantasy draft, and then that's it. That's not it. The work's just begun. That's not it. You have to now build out your handcuffs, right? Christian McCaffrey, first overall pick. Well, I hope you got Jordan Mason.
Yeah.
Right? He's there. What about Deebo Samuel going down? George Kittle. How about this? Here's another receiver I would get in there.
We called Deebo going down.
We did, absolutely. Here's a receiver I would get, and I believe last time I checked, he was only owned, I think, in like 20, maybe 20% of fantasy leagues. Juwan Jennings of the 49ers. Ayuk will get... He slides right up. And remember, they gave him a suspiciously and kind of weird at the time contract. I was like, why are you paying him whatever it was, $15 million? Like, that seems like they like him. So I think I got Juwan Jennings because of injury in one of my fantasy lineups. So I'm telling you, I'm doing what I'm telling you. I think that's another nice add. If you're in some wide receiver trouble, you can pop him in, and they should be giving him some targets just because, again, you don't have a lot of options.
I'll tell you this to wrap up. This kickoff rule is stupid, and if there's a touchback, the ball should automatically come out to the 40-yard line. It should come out to the 40-yard line because you haven't done anything. All you've done is reduce the amount of distance the guys have to run down and do a sprint.
And collision.
Yeah. No, but I mean now, before it used to be a 60-yard run and a touchback. Now it's maybe a 40-yard run and a touchback. You don't have to run that far. It's stupid. It looks stupid. It's dumb. The whole thing's dumb.
Yeah, it is. It has not worked. I guess NFL they're trying to, but now you got to tweak it for next season. I'm with you. It has to be a severe penalty if it's a touchback. Otherwise, teams won't care, and we're seeing that they don't care. So you got to say 40. If you put it on the 40, then teams will be like, oh, okay, now that's getting serious. But you have to put that seriousness in there. Otherwise, all right, boot it out. And if you're confident in your defense, okay, I'm good.
And if the returner lets the ball land in the field of play and have it go through the end zone, then the receiving team gets the ball at like the 5-yard line or the 10-yard line. So you can't allow it to bounce down. You know what I mean? You've got to return.
Make it crazy.
You know what I'm saying? Well, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise, just scrap the whole thing and let's go back to playing football. Kick it off and return it.
Kick it off and let people go to the bathroom and get a snack. Right? You got to pee at some point, Ballsy. Come on.
Where do they find your stuff, bro?
Get me on Twitter, on X, at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81. If you love horse racing, check out at MyRailbirds on all social, and on Instagram, at AndyMCSports. And live Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, we have our full Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara, Fantasy Football Start Sits. We'll put out more crazy parlays. We'll get your betting questions, your fantasy questions, and tee up all the games. So that's 10 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara.
And if they want to get information right up to date during the day of the game, they got a hashtag you. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, use hashtag Ask Andy for your fantasy football question. Just because then I can search it. I got a lot of messages, so then that all goes to like the one spot I can search it. So on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, hashtag Ask Andy for your fantasy questions. And then you jump in the chat live too when we're in there. And we answer your questions just like that live on the air.
Awesome, bro. Thanks for your time, man.
Oh, anytime. Love you, Ballsy. See ya.
All right. I have no idea. Like, listen, I'm figuring out this social media world. That interview was yesterday, and the one with Tish, and that podcast will be up a little later on in, wherever you get your podcast, along with the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. I didn't promote this show. I just wanted to do it because I'm dedicated to, making sure I'm out on the social media platforms with this show for the sports fan, the football fan, but the health and lifestyle fan. I didn't promote this show, and we have a healthy audience today, so I can't figure this out. I guess that's a sign things are growing here. Ballsy Uncut, really appreciate it. Appreciate our sponsors, Ward Tire Craft, Paul Waldo at Royal LePage, AGT Foods Canada. Thanks to them for getting on board. And then my post-game show sponsors, Payson Insurance Services, Gerhardt Studios, Dean and Nicole, Mr. D, Stats, Cocktails, and Dreams and Cravings, along with my buddy Kevin Welsh at Hammer Time Roofing in Saskatoon, and Regina's real mayor. That would be, and I'm not saying, I met Sandra Masters last night, had a nice conversation with her and her assistant. But the guy who's been the face of Regina behind the scenes on the mean streets, that'd be Carlo Giambattista and Italian Stardelli, helping support the show, the post-game show. So I appreciate all my great sponsors. I feel like I'm missing somebody. I don't think so. I think I got everybody. If I do, I'll make it up on Sunday. So we got a great weekend in store here. The Pats actually opened up their season. I'm the TV voice for them on Access, so I'm kind of partial to them. My favorite WHL team, the oldest one in major junior hockey, and then I like the Medicine Hat Tigers, who Dante DeCaria said yesterday on Ballsy Uncut before the power went out, he would be surprised if they lost more than 10 games. So those are my two favorite dub teams. Pats opened up their season beating PA last night. In PA, they've got their home opener tonight against the Brandon Wheat Kings with the barbecue and everything going on before, so make sure you get down to the Brant Center and help welcome the Regina Pats, who are still without the Vaughn twins, who are going to camp with the, I believe is it the Anaheim Ducks or the Kings, whatever. And then Tanner Howe still with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And he is going to main camp with them. So, but get out and support the Regina Pats tonight. The Regina Thunder on the road, taking on the Huskies, looking to improve to 5-1. So good luck to them tomorrow in Edmonton. And we got good luck to my son's team, the Calgary Dinos, taking on Manitoba today. Rams and Huskies lost yesterday. It's a wide open Can West. And CFL action today, we got Ottawa and Montreal. I'm going to go with the Alouettes, and I'm going to go with the Elcamos. But really, what does it matter? I'm 0 for 2 in my picks this week so far. I picked Calgary, and I picked Toronto, Hamilton, and Sask with big wins. It is a really wide open Can West and a really wide open CFL. Let's be honest, should make for some exciting football down the back stretch. A reminder, on Monday, once again, this platform will host Ballsy Uncut, which is my thrice a week podcast. Starts at 4 Saskatchewan time, 4 Central Standard Time. Among our guests will be Mike Pritchard, former Colorado Buffalo and NFL receiver, who will come on here to talk about the week that was in the NFL and tee up the Monday night game. And then we will get into some CFL talk. Keith Willoughby will be by with his stats. He always drops the stats for the CFL simulation. We'll have our power rankings. And we'll get into more review of what happened on the weekend in football with other great guests. I'd like to thank you for checking out this impromptu edition of Ballsy Uncut. Have a great rest of your weekend. I'm going to go upstairs, make some toast, and then go cut my grass. Whipper snipping. Oh, I love it.